Hey all, welcome to today's live Q&A. I am super excited as always. We've got a really smart and interesting guest we're going to be talking to today. Ian Howells, he's a partner at Traffic Think Tank, previously led SEO for companies like Lending Tree. He's been doing SEO for himself and for companies in-house and side projects and all kinds of stuff for nearly 20 years. Today we're going to be talking specifically about ranking money pages. And what we mean by that is ranking for keywords that most directly relate to revenue. So ranking for product-driven queries and things like that, where folks are coming in and most close to a purchase decision or most likely to convert into actual sales and revenue. So we're going to really be talking about the ROI of SEO and kind of how to think about these difficult and hard to rank terms. Before we get started today, a couple quick notes. As always, first of all, if you're not already subscribed to our channel, please hit the subscribe button, follow the channel here. We host workshops, Q&As, live sessions like this on a regular basis. I'd love to have you on future streams. Also, if you can hit like on this video, that will help us get found by more people. So please do that as well. And lastly, if you're not already a member of our content marketing and SEO group called Top of the Funnel, I'd love for you to join us. It's a free Slack community. That's where we sort of set up and host all of these events, live streaming stuff. We also have live Q&As and teardowns and video content that gets posted directly in the community as well. Next week, we're having an Ask Me Anything in our Slack channel with Adam Rogers, who's a content marketing at Shopify. We're going to be talking about repurposing or refreshing and updating content to improve rankings. Lots of interesting stuff coming up in the next couple months. So we'd love to have you in our group, Top of the Funnel. Again, here's a link, yesoptimist.com/tofu. It's a free group. Join us there. We'll enjoy chopping it up with you. Awesome. Well, with all of my pleasantries out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and bring our guest on today. Ian Howells is going to be joining us. Ian, hey, how are you? Welcome to the session.
Hey, Tyler. Great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm super excited. I think we've been kind of back and forth in conversation for, I don't know, a couple of years now, but I think this is the first time we've actually got a chance to connect in person or on the stream here, I guess.
Well, we chalk that up to COVID. Like we never did a video call pre-COVID, so we could just blame it on that, like everything else. I take easy excuses where I can get them, so I'll go with it.
I love it. Yeah, I think that's good. We all have blanket excuses for all of the obligations and things that we let lapse over the last year.
And then I cringed a little in the intro where it was like doing this for 20 years. I was like, oh, moles, man. Oh, that hurts. That hurts.
I'm getting there too, man. Don't worry. I was just thinking the other day. I think I've been in the game professionally now for over 10 years, but I also started, before even getting out of college, I was kind of tinkering with my own stuff and things like that as well. So I'm almost there as well. I know the feel. Cool, man. Well, let's just do a quick setup for folks here. So today we're going to be talking about this idea of money pages, or ranking for high value, sometimes ultra competitive keywords. And Ian, obviously you have a lot of firsthand experience here ranking for hugely competitive terms. I know in the discussion leading up to this session, we were talking about some of the terms you've gone after, like car loans or like debt consolidation, and these terms that are obviously very valuable to lots of companies, and so there's a lot of competition. So I'm really excited to dig into this and learn from your experience. Before we get too far into the details, I just want to learn a little bit more about your experience and your background. So on your site, it says that you started down this path and you started building and monetizing sites in 2001. Mm-hmm. What was the first site that you worked on, or what was the first thing that kind of turned into some kind of a business or revenue for you personally?
I would not call it a business by any stretch of the imagination. No, when I was in high school, my cousin and I actually ran. We didn't call it a blog at the time, but it was a blog. Very much not a business. So that's how I learned HTML. It was hosted on Angel Fire because I'm old, like we talked about. So this was December of '99. So that's how I started teaching myself HTML, like all the cool kids in high school do, especially in the late 90s. It made me super, super popular. And then we ran that just as a hobby for a while. And I was on a webmaster forum, and one of the guys on there started talking about how he was starting this e-commerce company, tshirthell.com. Still exists.
Yes, I remember.
It's like the type of shirts you would find in Hot Topic, and 17-year-old straight white kid, I was like smack dab in the middle of the target demo for this t-shirt business. And he had posted looking to see if anybody wanted to join his affiliate program. And I had done a banner for his site launch because once upon a time I thought I wanted to be a graphic designer with my pirated copy of Photoshop. So I had done a banner for him, which he paid me like $20 for, which is the first money I made on the internet. And I was amazed when literally an envelope with a piece of printer paper with nothing on it, just folded around a $20 bill, came in the mail. Like that was how I got paid for making a banner. So he asked me if I wanted to join his affiliate program. And my response was, what is an affiliate program? Like, I had no idea what he was asking me. So he explained it, and long story short, I joined, put the banners for T-Shirt Hell up on the blog that my cousin and I were running. And the first day, I think we made like $100. And I was like, I figured it out. We did it.
Millionaires. Love it.
Right? Like just to the moon. Here we go. Diamond hands. But you know, then the next day we made like 20. And then the day after that, we made like 5. And then we made nothing. Because it turned out we had the same 100 people coming to our website every day. And once they saw it, I was trying to sell them the same thing over and over and over again, which tends to not go very well. So that's my first foray into affiliate marketing. Again, very much not a business. That was a dummy throwing a banner up on a blog and like making maybe $150 over the course of a few days and thinking he figured it out.
That's amazing. That's I mean, I feel like that's where we all start though, right? It's some story like that, some thing where you realize like, oh, actually this could somehow make money if I can like figure out how to put the pieces together. And then I think that's the allure, right? Is then it becomes the puzzle of like, okay, I know that this can work if I do the right things. Now I have to figure out what those things are, and then and then figure out how to execute it, right? What was your site about, by the way? I have to ask.
Nothing. It was two idiots trying to be funny, basically. So like at the time, in the late 90s, blog had this very at least for the people that I knew on the internet, which sounds weird now, but blog was like a live journal. Like it was people, it was like it was like, literally
here's my day.
Yeah, it was like a diary, like literally a diary. So there was a community of sites that was very much trying to not be that. It was the EN community, everything and nothing, just E/N was how it was referred to. Style Project was the biggest site of the time to come out of that, but then like he veered super hard into like shock adult gore stuff. But he was kind of the biggest, like, and viewed as a sellout and whatever because he went down the porn route, and it was a weird little community, but like it worked. It got me there. I got into it because I took art in high school as my electives. And I was in freshman art with a bunch of seniors who just needed an elective, and they ran their own website, and they were really funny. But they were 3 years older than me, and I was a big dork. So like I could not be a part of their website. So I just went and made my own then. That's fine. But it worked out.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so interesting. I feel like it was a fun time to be growing up at sort of the infancy of the internet as we know it today. It was a strange time. I don't think people these days will ever fully understand what it was like being on the internet.
We are not helping my feeling old comment.
I know. Oh boy. Yeah. So the other thing I'm super curious about. On Twitter, you have these SEO is dead tweets where you post updates that I assume from a personal project of yours, showing your traffic consistently increasing every month,
Yep.
And talking about how SEO is dead. Can you talk a little bit about that? What sparked that thread?
Yeah, I mean, just a little tongue in cheek, because it's like throw a rock in the SEO community and you'll hit 4 people saying that SEO is dead, right? But I saw it was last October. I went back and checked the thread this morning of like when I started. So at some point last October, I must have saw another thread discussion flare up around like, oh, SEO doesn't work anymore. Like you got to be on TikTok or whatever the hell people are doing now. I'm just going to feel old all day. I've accepted it. And so I started like, oh, like just tongue in cheek, like, oh yeah, it's totally dead. Like here's a site that launched spring of 2019, and then October of 20, it was pacing for like 40,000 visits a month. And then this month it'll do somewhere between 85 and 90,000. And like, we don't pay a penny for traffic. Like that's all just organic traffic. Maybe like 2-3% of it is referral, but everything else is just organic traffic. And by organic, just like everyone else, I mean Google. Like, you know, in there somewhere, but like, does anybody care?
Yeah.
So, and then I just keep that updated each month, almost to keep myself accountable, like knowing like, oh, shit, like I set the trend. Now I got to show this traffic number next month. So like, I need to make sure I'm giving this project an appropriate amount of attention. Cause like now I'm kind of on the hook to keep doing it for a while.
That's always fun, putting the pressure on yourself to share your metrics and that's awesome. Yeah, I love that too. I think it's so funny how people come to these conclusions. Like, and it must be that their experience is just different. Like they must run into a roadblock or something where they are like convinced that, we're never gonna win this way or like whatever it is. But it's so funny to me.
Yeah, and like to be fair, in some industries, it's going to feel like it's dead. Like if you start a new credit card review site tomorrow, like, yeah, it's going to feel like SEO doesn't work because you're really far behind. Like, and there's only 2 spots that matter, maybe. Like there's arguably 1 spot that matters, but like 2, 3, okay. Like, and if you're not there, you're not going to see much. So I get it. In some situations, it does feel like that ship kind of sailed and it's too far out of reach. But especially as an affiliate, like there's so many markets that are still plenty open for new folks to kind of wedge themselves in there.
Yeah, I think that's actually, I don't want to get too far off the tangent here, but I think that's one of the biggest sort of challenges and actually like advantages of folks that have experience in SEO is that the returns are, it's not linear, right? It is linear until it's exponential. and that's just, I always tell folks like that's just a function of how SEO works, which is that you might rank number 11 all day, or you go from position 50 to position 11, and that's great progress, but you're not going to see that in analytics. You're not going to see any traffic until you get to page 1, and then even when you're on page 1, it's going to take it's in a lot of niches for a lot of queries. It's not going to be until at least the top half of the page that you actually really start seeing traffic. And so it doesn't come linearly. It comes in a wave, right? You'll be kind of slowly moving up, and then all of a sudden your traffic goes through the roof the next week. And that's because you tipped over to that one new point. And so if you give up early, or you think this is a lost cause, we've spent 6 months doing this and nothing's happening, like, it's easy to think that. It's easy to give up.
For sure. And it's what I think I learned later in my career is that that exponential force works the other way too, which is much less fun, right? Like when you hit that number 1, number 2 spot and you've got all that traffic and that revenue coming in, if you just slip to number 4, like analytics is a bloodbath. Like all of a sudden, like where'd all the money go, right? Like we've just lost 30% of revenue for this product. And it's like, oh, the main product page slipped 2 spots on the head term. Right. Like it's not like you're tanked, you're not penalized, you didn't, it's not like an algorithm update hit and now you're on page 5. You're literally number 4. It's just compared to number 1, that looks like trash when you actually look at traffic and revenue, right? So once you get there, it's also very challenging to not view that as the new normal. And then like, that's what you expect every day when you check your stats, and doubly complicated when you are hypothetically, let's say, in-house at a financial lead gen company that's publicly traded, because SEO might be single-digit percentage of total revenue, but it may be a notable double-digit percentage of profit because there's no real marketing spend. So if you slip 2 spots on a head term, like all of a sudden the CEO and the CFO are real interested in this SEO thing and what's going on over here, right?
They're watching John Mueller videos that week.
No, they're just emailing me and saying, like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I think that's so much. I will preach that till the day I die. It's like, it's SEO. Of course, it's a long game, and it's not linear, and you gotta understand all the moving pieces and all the metrics to really have a picture of, is this going to work at some point, and how do we get to that point? Awesome, man. Well, I'd love to jump into the topic for today. So we're talking about this idea of money pages, and we sort of loosely defined it in the intro here, but just to give everyone an understanding, when we think about the idea of like a money page, how would you describe that, Ian?
I would say it's really any page where the primary purpose is to guide a user through an action that you can monetize, right? That might be an email subscription. It might be buying a physical product. It might be signing up for a recurring software subscription. It could be for affiliates, just like clicking that button and getting my Amazon cookie on your machine for the next 24 hours, right? Like it varies based on what you're doing. But I think any page where the clear primary intent is for that to happen, right? So Traffic Think Tank just put out a Rich Snippets email newsletter, and the landing page, the only thing you can do is put your email in the box and hit subscribe. Like you're doing that or you're leaving, right? So like stuff like that is very cut and dry, because like, well, yeah, there's literally one thing to be done on this page, and that is it. But for e-com, it's, a category page or a product page are very easy examples. And then affiliate, I would say that the easiest money page example is the best of page, right? The page that you're trying to rank for best headphones or something like that.
How do you, if you were looking at a new site or a new company or a client or whatever, how do you sort of quickly parse which pages are sort of the money pages, or which pages are going to be the most valuable in terms of revenue?
Yeah, I would look at, I think probably first stop would be just digging through Search Console to see where do we have some sort of traction now, right? And then what do those terms look like? Are they terms that are like best headphones, or are they terms that are like, who makes waterproof camping tents, right? Like some very like information, or like what's Charlie Sheen's net worth, right? Right? Like curiosity searches that like, okay, yeah, you can't really turn outside of display ads. You're not going to turn that into money. Like that is not a person that is looking for a product or a service as the answer to their search, right?
Right. Yeah. So if we think about that sort of in terms of like the funnel, it's sort of like further down the funnel. I would say like mid funnel or below. Yep. Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. And I think one thing that we run into a lot with we work with a lot of SaaS clients, and so for them, like a money page is often like a product marketing page. It's like email automation software or like whatever, right? So again, it's sort of transactional focus. Like it's not informational. It's people who are looking for a tool or a product or a service or something like that, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a weird blend, right? Because more so in the affiliate world, I guess, a money page can look like a normal blog post, right? And sometimes it's more the topic that you're writing about, right? The keywords that you selected that this page should rank for is really what kind of veers it into, oh yeah, I would expect conversion rate from this page would actually be higher than these other 10 posts that I've written, because they're very purely just informational type stuff.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. And that's a little bit of a secret for us. I think one of our secret weapons is sort of building things that don't necessarily look like a or wouldn't maybe could be considered
A
like a money page,
softer sell, maybe.
yeah, exactly. Or really just building a really great piece of content that works somebody from what would be like top of the funnel and kind of moves them through the stages in one post. If you can do that, that's money. But for our purposes today, we're going to talk about the more difficult piece of this, which is down funnel. I want to rank for software or tools or the best headphones or whatever it is.
Yep.
In your experience, what percent of pages tend to kind of fall in this category or really contribute to actual revenue for a business or for a website?
So percent of like contribution to revenue often will be like single digit percentage in terms of like the total site, right? So most of even looking at, I was spinning through the analytics for some of my affiliate stuff this morning, prepping for this. And even the sites that are pretty well spread out, where we've got like 300 or so pages on the site, traffic is decently distributed. You always kind of have your big winners. But even on those, I think the lowest I found was something like 35% of clickouts coming from the top 10 pages. And that was the least concentrated in the top 10. So generally what happens, at least in my experience, is you'll have those couple pieces that really hit, and they're hitting number one, number two for higher volume stuff. And then that is just disproportionate compared to all of your other pages, right? Which is good and bad, right? I'll take the win, but then I want to try and diversify away from that so that I don't hit what we talked briefly about earlier. We're like, oh God, if I lose this one ranking, or if I drop 2 spots on this one ranking, all of a sudden 15% of this site's revenue is going to evaporate from one month to the next, right? If you're really, really dependent on one page and a handful of rankings to feed that one page, it's good while you can get it, but that's not a very solid foundation to be sitting on. You want to try and diversify away from that while supporting that ranking and making sure that you keep it. But generally, in my experience, it's a very small percentage of pages on a site that tend to just dominate in terms of contribution to total revenue.
Yeah, I think that's the case that we've seen as well, right? So just to kind of quantify that again, it sounds like something like 10 pages out of 300 could easily mean 50% of actual conversions or sales or revenue, depending on your business model, which again, it's a sort of a scary proposition, right? It puts a lot of pressure on those particular terms. Yeah. So what is it that makes these pages or these terms so difficult to rank versus what any other query or any other kind of content?
Yeah, so I think it's a couple things. One, once you're defined in a space, your competitors generally aren't dumb. Everybody can do the keyword research and figure out oh, here's where the real high intent searches are, right? If you offer personal loans, or you're a financial lead gen site monetizing personal loans, all the volumes in the word personal loans, right? Personal loans, best personal loans for bad credit. If you play down the credit score spectrum, there's not a lot of mystery to it. So everybody is trying to rank for the same 3, 4, 5 keywords, right? So competition is just very, very high because you've got a bunch of other people all gunning for the same goal that you're trying to reach. And the other part, not to jump ahead, is they're just very hard to build links to. They're exceedingly difficult to get links to these pages, because when it's clear that the point of a page is to do some transaction, right? There's no point for me to link to that page unless I want my readers to click that link and do that transaction. And if that's what I want them to do, I probably want them to do it with my site. Right. I'm not going to send them especially in the affiliate Amazon world. I'm just going to join the Amazon affiliate program. I'm not going to send you to CNET's list of best headphones. I'm just going to make a page about the best headphones and do an internal link to that instead. Why would I link to your page that is clearly designed to make you money? And that is the sole focus of the page, is to get people to add something to a cart, right? So unless I'm promoting your thing for you, why would I link to a money page, right? It doesn't make sense. That's just a natural kind of barrier to getting links to these pages, which then makes it much more difficult to rank them even outside of the competition factor.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think that's that's one of the things that we talk about a lot is like what makes a page link worthy, or why would someone link to this and in what context, and yeah, that's definitely one of the confounding things is like the pages oftentimes that you want to get the most links from a business perspective are the least least link worthy, but from the perspective of someone else who would provide that link. So yeah, it's a little bit of a catch-22 scenario. And maybe let's do jump ahead. Let's talk a little bit about that sort of link building. So knowing those challenges, like how do you personally think about the process of building links, or tell us all of your secrets, Ian.
So I guess it's different. The answer is different depending on what game you're playing, right? So like I have kept a framework from my time at Red Ventures, breaking my sites down into 3 groups: tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Tier 1 is this is a very long-term bet. Everything is white hat. I'm not doing anything sketchy at all. Like the best content I can get created, the best links I can get, like all that work goes to the tier 1 stuff. Tier 3 is complete and total garbage. I'm just testing automated link, right? Like all of the black hat SEO spam crap would be tier 3. And then tier 2 tries to kind of thread the needle where like maybe I'm buying guest posts and like, yeah, I know this stuff isn't super long term. Like that's going to lose its effectiveness at some point, or like the sites that I'm buying links from are going to get torched. And then when they get torched, the link value I'm getting from them is going to go away. So I'm going to drop even if I don't get penalized. So I'll ignore 2 and 3, except to say for tier 2, the kind of bread and butter is you do guest posts and you're controlling the anchor text and the link, so you can point them wherever you want. And so then building links to money pages in that scenario is very easy. Not super helpful because most actual businesses don't want to be dabbling in gray hat stuff that is probably going to catch up with them at some point in the future. But in the tier 1 stuff, I actually very rarely, if ever, build links directly to money pages. I'm generally looking at, okay, here's my core money topic. Now, what are the topics that surround that are relevant to it, but kind of fit that more? There's a reason somebody would actually link to this, right? So that's really the path that I take in that tier 1 tranche is you've got to make that interesting stuff that it makes sense for somebody else to link to, and then rely on your internal linking structure to push that authority to your actual money pages to get them to rank. Once your money page ranks, then it gets a little bit easier because you'll start getting natural links from people that are just kind of lazy, right? Like they're not going to go through the process of finding like the best XYZ or whatever. And like, they're a financial reporter that caught a story about like, what are personal loan rates doing today? And they just Googled personal loans, and you've got a rate table on your money page and you're number 1. So they clicked on you first, and there you go. They're just going to copy your URL and link to it. Right. But those links are very hard to build. It's the stuff that like, once you're there, John Cooper, I think it was, had a phrase a while ago that like the link rich get richer. Like once you rank, like you just keep getting natural links without having to do anything. So once you're there, you can get links directly to your page, but on the way up, very, very little link activity direct to a money page, unless you pull the old switcheroo, which is debatably gray hat, where like you've got something linkable on a URL, and then after you build 20, 30, 40 links to it, it's just like, oh,
it's over there now.
And now I'm going to put this money page content up on this URL that all these great sites already linked to 5 months ago or whatever.
Would you, how would you, would you say that's gray hat, or is that actually black hat, do you think?
No, I would say that's correct. On the scale of garbage that you can do in terms of link building, that's relatively tame compared to. I think you can get a little more creative and massage it, where like maybe the survey data or something that was the point of people linking just gets pushed down the page, and now above it, of the fold, you've got more commercial oriented stuff. Like you can get a little creative there, but
yeah. So I want to go back to the sort of pure white hat strategy that you described. I think this is very similar to the approach that we take with clients as well. Of course, we have to be extremely judicious about things that we're doing and not risking anything for our clients. And so, first of all, let me just make sure that I am understanding the strategy correctly, which is, say you've got this page that's about personal loans or whatever. It's your commercial page, money keyword that you want to rank number one, but it's going to be really difficult to build links to that. And so the strategy would be, instead of trying to get people to link to this page, I'm going to create another page over here that is personal loan statistics or something that would be sort of more inherently linkable. And then I'm going to build links to that page and then use internal links to sort of funnel that, sort of topical authority, for lack of a better term, into that money page.
Exactly. So studentloanhero.com is a great example of this. So while I was at LendingTree, we acquired Student Loan Hero. A large percentage of their revenue came from one page. And it was the page that ranked for student loan refinance and refinance student loans. Like all of this is in Ahrefs. This is not like some secret sauce. Like those are the money terms in the student loan refi space, and they ranked very well for both of those two terms. The big link getter for the site was the student loan debt statistics page, because they kept that thing updated all the time with all the latest data around what's the average student loan balance per capita in the US, what is the total student loan debt that's outstanding. Like, it was basically a page created to just spoon feed information to journalists who were writing a piece about student loan debt, right? And like, that was it. That was the link flywheel, and it worked incredibly well. Right. So like, that one big piece was just like an outsized proportion of the total links coming into the site, and the best links that the site got generally all pointed to that one student loan debt stats page.
Right. And then as you alluded to previously, right, the whole link link rich get richer or whatever, right? Like that's sort of the dirty secret, I think, that people don't realize, is that if you can build a page like that is sort of a will naturally accrue links once it ranks, then all you have to do is give it a little bit of momentum, and you can sort of reap the rewards for years. And then the flywheel takes over from there, and then your job is find out how many topics like this exist within my niche, so that I'm not like building links that are way off topic or anything. So how many of those lines can I get out there, just building, even if it's 2-3 natural links a month? If you've got 10 of them, all of a sudden you're picking up between 20 and 30 totally natural LRDs with presumably very natural looking anchor text, without sending a single outreach email. Like, pretty good. That's money. So I think one of the big takeaways, and this was something that I realized in my career as well, is that I think as SEOs, or as content marketers, however we want to bill ourselves, is like, we kind of get focused on the tactical piece of it, which is like, I've got this page, and I know that in order for this page to rank, I need to have links. And so I'm going to focus all my attention on trying to build links to this specific page. And what I found is that, you're essentially swimming upstream, right? You're going against the grain, trying to build links to a page that is going to be difficult to build links to in any sort of natural way. And so I think the solution to that, ultimately, what I've learned in my career, is that, like, to zoom out and think broader about the whole strategy, right? And that's where, we sort of come up with this idea of like, okay, well, we can, instead of focusing on building links directly to this page, can we sort of boost that page by using, sort of this other content, and kind of thinking more broadly about our strategy and how these pieces work together, rather than viewing each piece as sort of its own entity, or each page as its own entity. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the very first time I reached out to you was to say how much I liked the trifecta strategy that you guys noted in, I think it was like the big case study that you launched with when you launched the Optimist site, talking about like the evergreen, the social, and the link building as page types that are distinct from each other. And it was like, like, this is this is how you have to do it in a lot of spaces. And
Right.
at that point, it was like, people aren't really talking about this all that much. It's just kind of like you were saying, that tactical level, build links manually to the pages that you want to rank was still kind of the more discussed approach.
Right. And I think the other thing that has sort of maybe prompted more people to take that approach or to zoom out is that like it has just gotten, maybe not exponentially, but it certainly feels like it has gotten more difficult to build those links to what we would consider money pages. Do you feel that as well? Like it's gotten more difficult to do that?
No, it is for sure. And I think I didn't fully realize why until friend of a friend owns a small law firm. So I helped him out with just WordPress site, yada, yada, yada. But as part of it, I am CC'd on the leads that come through just to make sure that like everything is working correctly. So seeing the garbage SEO pitches and link requests that come in through a contact form on an attorney website, like there's no resource page on this. Like there's no
context for links. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There's no big target painted on the site saying like, hey, link builders, this would be a great spot for you to be featured. Just fill out this contact form. There's no right for a page, right? It's a client intake lead form. And without fail, every day, there's either a pitch that I can build you links to get you to rank better in Google, or I'm a big fan of your website and I really love the content that you've got on such and such page. And gee golly, it would be great if you linked to this article that we did and blah, blah, blah. Like just seeing the tsunami of garbage that website, like legitimate website owners are getting in there. And like, this is a small website. It's like a DR 13 or something silly. Like I can't imagine large high traffic sites, just the mountain of shit their inbox looks like every day. So it is definitely getting harder and harder because scaling mass outreach has gotten easier and easier over the course of the years. So there's just so much more requests happening now than ever before.
For sure. Yeah. It's always amazing to me. I think like there's sort of a rolling wave of like new people who either like get those requests or they move up the chain in like marketing and start receiving those emails or whatever. And it's like a shocker every time to people that like, this is just happening all day, every day. Like the thing that you think is novel in your outreach is not novel. Like there's no email template that has not been already written and tried and done to death.
And I mean, we had run into this a little bit in Traffic Think Tank as well, where people were hungry for like an example email template. It was like, I'm not going to like the minute anyone publishes a template, that template is now useless. Like all the ones that Brian Dean has were probably great before he hit publish on that blog post. Now they are trash. And there's 5 other of that exact email in the person's inbox that you're thinking about sending it to. Like it just becomes utterly useless the minute it's in a template form.
For sure. I want to spend a little bit more time just talking about this link building and sort of the strategy that we discussed. I think that's going to be a big lesson for a lot of folks. Is just thinking more strategically, less tactical about building links to these hard to rank pages. How do you think about and I know that I might get slapped for saying this, but like domain authority, topical authority, those kind of things. How do you think about that as part of the strategy?
In terms of like qualifying folks that I want to link from, or
and sort of the content that you're using to build links, and then sort of pushing using internal links, like how closely related is sort of closely related enough topically for the content, and then and also what impact do you expect sort of across the site versus just like things that are topically relevant to the pages that are getting links.
So I try to stick as close as possible on the topic front for a few reasons. The biggest among them being, I have found when your links are really on topic, you need significantly less of them to rank well, right? So like the more site
efficient. More efficient.
Yes, 100%. Like if I can do less work, I'm going to do less work. Like that is how I'm going to do it. Right. So even if it, takes a little more strategy and thinking about it, like if I could build 100 links instead of 500, I'm going to figure out how to get those 100 that really matter. So the kind of case study Twitter thread site that is marching its way to 100,000 visits a month. That one, we've got maybe 80 LRDs that matter. Like if you take out the scraper coupon crap that is in Ahrefs for every domain under the sun, there's maybe 80 links that really matter. And a bunch of the competition will have 2,400 LRDs total. I haven't burned the garbage out with them, but like we are DR 32, 33, like small in terms of like SEO stats, but pulling 80 something thousand visits for this month is the pace, right? Like, which is a lot for some sites and is a joke for other people. So I don't mean that 80,000 is like a definitive, like we're killing. For the topic, it's pretty good. So the more on topic you can stay, the more outsized the reward is, right? Where like if I just started building all these just general links that were just about tech news to like make the category super broad, we would need way more than 80 of those to kind of get the return that we're getting today. The other piece would be really, which doesn't happen all the time, but I've seen it happen enough, and I've talked with other folks. John Cooper comes to mind immediately because we just caught up a few weeks ago, where seeing sites that started building links outside of its main topic, like really stretched to try and just get more link activity, and things just flatline. Like new LRDs are coming in, but rankings and traffic just aren't moving. Like it's not as linear as it used to be, where like just build 500 LRDs, doesn't matter what the topic is, and you will see your traffic continue to climb and climb. The more you stretch out of your main topic, the less and less effective it gets, which is really just the flip side of saying you get the most bang for your buck when you're staying really close on topic.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's definitely been our experience as well. It's just I think we're entering an era of content marketing and SEO where if it hasn't already clicked for everyone, like quality over quantity is what's going to matter in the long run. Like I think, and especially as we see, continued updates on Google's algorithm, like all this stuff, like they are getting smarter and smarter about discounting links that are clearly, not real or not valuable to an actual user or to a human. And so I think that's exactly what we're seeing as well.
Yeah.
I was going to say, not to put you on the spot, but do you have like, I don't know, internally in your head as you're doing sort of the calculus there, like, do you have maybe like a conversion rate? Like, hey, I'll take 50, off-topic links for one on-topic link or something. Like, is there sort of a trade-off in your head there, or how do you think about that?
Honestly, I try to avoid building and getting off-topic links. Like there's not like a trade, like, oh, if I could get 50, I would do it. Like, because now I feel like I'm more at risk of just watering down the topical focus of the site, right? Because generally the sites that I'm building are pretty focused on one industry. Like I'm not going to try and build the wire cutter where we do product reviews of all the stuff, right? Like I'm not going to get anywhere. I'm just going to spin my wheels and it's not going to work. So sites are generally pretty focused on one topic area. So for those tier one projects, if we're kind of limiting scope of discussion to those, I will actively avoid trying to build or get links that are outside of that main topic area, unless we're talking like Washington Post or something, right? Like if we're talking like a huge major media outlet, like, yep, I'll take them all day long.
Yeah,
That's
cool.
For those, I will break the rule, but like outside of major media outlets, I want to be fairly on topic.
Yeah, and I think that's what we've ultimately seen in terms of like the algorithm and like ranking trends in general, is that a lot of those really broad sites like the Wirecutter and stuff have really struggled over the years, right? Because they're so broad, and because I think Google's looking for more sites that have a little bit more concentrated topical authority around some key themes generally. Would you agree with that?
I mean, Wirecutter's doing just fine, so they're okay. But the people that are trying to emulate them, like one of the things in TTT, folks can fill out. There's just a simple form asking me to review an affiliate site, And there were a bunch that came in December and early January, as you might imagine, because of the December algorithm shakeup.
Yeah.
So if you go into Ahrefs and look at the traffic for something like gearhungry.com, it is a nightmare. Like, that is the graph that keeps SEOs up at night, because it goes from, I think Gear Hungry was the one that was like 1.8, 1.9 million visits a month to 9,000. Like, it is just a disaster, right? But like, it makes sense because the site's garbage, right? It's my go-to example of, this is a site that checks the SEO stat boxes, but is actually a turd. Like, it has a DR 60, 70, whatever the hell it is, right? It's got X amount of do follow links. Its anchor text is conservative. It has unique content on 3,000 pages. But it's all trash. It's all reviews of products the person never touched. Like, the whole underlying principle of the site is nonsense. There's no way Google wants to rank a site like that, even if it's checking the SEO checklist boxes of like, get X number of links and have Y amount of words and blah, 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 blah. Like, the internal link structure is fine. Like, the people who built the site know what they're doing. It's just crap. And every time we see an algorithm update, the gap between what Google wants to do and what Google is capable of doing gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And sites like this live in that gap, right? They live off of, what does Google still rank today, even though in a perfect system they would not rank it at all, right? Because that's the easiest stuff to produce and the easiest stuff to monetize.
For sure. Yeah, that's a great overarching lesson for all of us, which is, I always tell people, like, don't chase the algorithm. Think about the user. Think about what Google, the ideal of what Google wants, because that's what they're always going to be moving towards. Is how to, serving the user, providing, good, ranking the best content for the query. It's super, super helpful. Cool. So just to kind of shift back, I want to work through a couple of different factors. So we talked a lot, of course, about link building on these money pages, which is super important. How about, like, to take a step back, in terms of like technical SEO or site architecture, are there any specific considerations around how you want these pages to be set up or positioned in your website?
Yeah. So when I'm building into a topic, right? Every money page. So like, once I do my keyword research, right, I'm basically splitting everything into, like, this is a money term, or this is an informational term, or this is a comparison term, the A versus B type queries. So Bose versus Sennheiser for headphones, right? So everything kind of gets categorized. I will build my money pages first, right? Because I want them indexed and aging as soon as possible. And the other reason I build them first is all of my informational content is basically supporting those money pages, right? So like, every informational article is in a hub or topic cluster or whatever verbiage you want to throw on it, right? I like topic cluster from the HubSpot graph, just because I think that was the first image I saw that like just distilled it down to as simple as it can possibly be in visual form. But those money pages are really kind of the center of those topic clusters. So as my informational content gets published, every informational article, there's like a checklist that I go through of like, it's got a link to a money page and it's got a link to 2 other informational articles. Like, those are just the high level rules, right? So I want my money pages up first, because I don't want to publish a bunch of informational content and then go to the money page and then have to, again, like, if I can do less work, I'm going to do less work. So if I can sequence page launch in a way that makes it easier for me, that's the way that I'm gonna do it. So then tech setup for the money page, like, these are the pages you should kind of obsess over. Like, if you're going to get obsessive about load time, your money pages are really where you should be obsessive about load time, right? Because these are the things that you want to rank for the highest value terms you're going after. And then you want the user experience on these pages to be as good as possible, because you want them, you don't want to get in their way, right? If somebody's looking for best headphones, I want to give my opinion about the best headphone and get you a big old link that you could click on to go buy that thing somewhere.
Yeah.
Get out of your way and let you make the purchase, right? Like, that is my goal. So kind of the least amount of roadblocks you can put in terms of like doing a big modal on mobile to try and get somebody on an email list 3 seconds after they landed on your site. Like, what are you doing? Like, no, don't be like Neil Patel in that sense. So I think stuff like that is super important. But then for even outside of those pages, for all those informational pieces, right, I'll try to also automate internal linking as much as I can, right? So I'll have an informational article, and then in the template, and some page builders like Elementor can make this easy. Underneath the main post, there'll be a block that'll say more guides on XYZ. And then it'll automatically link to the 8 most recently updated posts in that category. So then I have internal links to other stuff on that topic, and then one hard-coded link in that block to the money page for it. So even if by some weird accident of happenstance or whatever, the piece gets published without a link in the content, there is a template block that links to the money page for that category.
That makes no sense. Yeah. That's awesome. That's super helpful. And I think that's one other thing too that might be a takeaway for folks is like, we talk a lot about link building. I think more and more people now understand the value of internal links. But if you're not aware already, right, like it's one of those things where like you have 100% control over it, and B, you can actually use it in both tactical ways, but also strategic ways, as we were talking about before, to sort of funnel the authority that you're getting from outside links to specific pages that you really want to rank, which is a super valuable tool. Yeah,
and that's really how you monetize informational content, right? Is that indirect, like somebody's asking like a researchy type question, and you basically talk through the answer, and then you've got like a feature call out or whatever that's like, if you're interested in, cold weather or camping in cold weather, here's our picks for the best cold weather camping tents. And it's just a big link to your best of page that is then very money page centric because you're just listing 8 cold weather camping tents, right? Whereas the informational guide might be packing list for cold weather camping trips, right? That's a more informational type research piece, but lends itself to segue that person to clicking over to a best of, which is then much more monetizable.
100%. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so how about the content itself on like a money page? Like, how do you think about that? Let's just leave it there. How do you think about that, the content itself?
So there's a couple different types. I would say as an affiliate, generally, the stuff I end up doing is very heavy in 3 buckets. One, the very tried and true best of, right? Like it's fairly simple. Product reviews are another, right? So just deeper dive into one particular item. And then comparison pages are the third biggie. So A versus B. So Coleman versus some other tent brand that I keep picking tents, even though like I've got about that much knowledge in the topic. So it's a really bad one.
Tents and headphones.
Yeah. Well, so they're like 2 spaces that I'm not really messing around in. So like I feel much more comfortable talking through those because that's somebody else's niche. So yeah, I think those are really the 3. And I think the more, again, in that tier 1 bucket, right? The more you can focus on building an affiliate business and not an affiliate site, the better off you end up being, right? And like the way I delineate the 2 is if you were to honestly describe what you do to build your site, what does that sound like? Right? Because on the one hand, like the wire cutters of the world, the description will be something like, I buy 30 pairs of headphones, try them all, test them all, and give my honest recommendation. For most affiliates, it's, I looked up the 30 top selling headphones on Amazon and then paid somebody on TextBroker to write reviews for them.
Right.
One of those Google would ideally not rank and send traffic to, right? Like, so again, the more you're not trying to work against the grain of what Google would want to rank, the better off you're going to be. And so that can kind of serve as the North Star for content creation. Is like, what am I actually doing? Right? Like, am I just cranking out reviews for products that no one's actually touched? Like, okay, that's probably not where the bar should be if you're playing that tier 1 game, right? If you're playing the tier 2 or tier 3 game, like,
right.
Yeah.
And would you say, would you say that that generally leads to sort of like longer, more detailed content? Like that's sort of the outcome that happens in that?
Sometimes. So I think thinking about my time in finance as the example, there are some products that are just straight commodities and shorter is actually better. Like personal loans, what's the rate? What's the term? That's about it, right? Like what's the minimum credit score you're going to accept, right? There's not a whole lot that customer needs to know, because dollars from Prosper are the same as dollars from Lending Club, right? Like it's not going to make a difference. It's just how long do I have to pay it back and what's my interest rate going to be is basically the difference makers in these. So there's some topics like that where like you don't need this big deep exposition about, you know, the benefits of this company versus this company or whatever, and kind of short, sweet, and to the point is better. But then when you get into product reviews, as stuff kind of tightens up a little and there's more like, oh, well, if you are a Twitch streamer, this webcam is probably best for you, versus if you're recording YouTube videos ahead of time, maybe you want this camera and not this camera because this one is built more for live stream and this one is whatever. I don't know crap about cameras either, but so like once you get into gray areas where like this one is the best for people that kind of look and feel like this and have their main needs as this group, but if your main need is this other thing, then this one is going to be a better fit for you. That type of content tends to be longer and deeper. And then the more commodity type stuff is just kind of like, give me the stats as quick as possible above the fold, give them their conversion points. And then if you want to do the SEO mullet, which is my affectionate term for like big old CTA at the top and then long content underneath it. And if you want to do that route and give the background of like, how do personal loans work? Why are personal loans good for debt consolidation? Like that's where all that sort of crap will end up being.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's that's maybe one of the missing pieces for a lot of folks, is that they hear, you know, hey, if you make the page more detailed, like it can help you with rankings and yada, yada, yada. But then they think that means like that has to come first, right? Which is really, you know, the structure and the order of the page and the content itself should really reflect the user intent. I think is sort of the takeaway there, right? So if I'm looking for rates and personal loan, you know, sign up, like that should be number one, and then any supporting,
and then explain.
Long thing. Yeah. And except for recipes, apparently, which everyone is the loathe of the internet.
Well, and I think I'm pretty sure it was you. I apologize if this was somebody else and I'm blending you into it, but I think you just did a teardown of a SaaS page where it was like introduces the problem, talks about the pain points, explains the manual way that you would do it, and then naturally segues to like, or you could just sign up for our SaaS and we make this super easy and here's how. Like that's the other way where the sell is actually at the end, and it makes sense that the sell is at the end because you need to do that setup and walk them through the process first. Yep,
100%.
That was you, right? Or am I making that up?
I have done that, so you may be refer to something that I shared. Yeah.
I'd just be giving you credit for things you didn't do.
That's fine. I do. I am actually all the SEOs on the internet. That's just my alter egos. Awesome. Well, first of all, again, thank you so much for taking the time. This has been amazing. If you have, I know we got just a couple minutes here. I'd love to just work through. We got a couple questions from folks real quick. So first of all, Adam Rogers from Shopify, he wants to know, thinking about the e-com space specifically, which are of course, you know, notoriously difficult. His question is, terms that describe products or like product terms, so like men's shorts, for instance, are A, very competitive, and B, you know, you're competing with Amazon basically, right? So do you have any specific recommendations for that scenario?
So those, I think trying to go head to head with an Amazon, Walmart, Best Buy, like the massive like big box retailer, Macy's for clothing in the US anyway, as an example, not a fight I would pick, right? So like what I try and do instead of that is then break into some sort of interest or identity demographic, right? So like best shorts for workouts, right? So like getting real specific into use case for that particular product and going after that rather than trying to just tackle the super generic, just men's shorts.
So sort of niche down, basically.
Yeah. Which like your main category pages may cover everything, but then you want to do some sort of buying guide or kind of filtered subcategory page that's indexable, and you can change the title and the heading and the header image and whatever for it. So probably not just an actual like parameter-based filter page, but getting a new subcategory created that has the products that fit that one specific niche person or use case that that the product kind of revolves around.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know we're at the top where I heard you have a couple extra minutes.
I'm good. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, cool. So Megan wants to know, have you ever had a link request? This is, I think, going back to our link outreach horror story section. Have you ever had a request that you actually did respond to and link to?
I've had some that I responded to.
Was it a middle finger? Or?
No. Like part of being old is I've grown out of doing stuff like that for the most part. No, like I have occasionally just emailed people back and been like, "Hey, I'm not linking to you, but like this was a good email. Nice job."
Fair enough. Yeah.
And like just real quick response of like, "That was good." Like if I wasn't me, I would link to you. Right. But I think generally I don't think I've ever actually linked to one because they come in two flavors. Either it's a garbage site that I would never link to in the first place, or it's a site that's trying to rank for literally the same stuff I'm trying to rank for. So like, no, bro, I'm not gonna help you beat me. Like, no, I'm sorry, but no.
That's that is the great irony, I think, of all of the link building is the people who are like, hey, I see you've got this great piece on content marketing strategy. Could you link to my piece about content marketing strategy? Like, what? Like that doesn't like. Again, it goes back to like, what is the context? Why would somebody actually link to this, and how can I, serve their readers in some way? Otherwise, like, you're just wasting time, wasting everyone's time. Cool. We have one more question here, I think, from Megan. She says, "How do you make a post better than the competition's if it's a keyword that it isn't a keyword that requires a lot of content? So very short." So I think going back to the idea that you had, right? So personal loans, hey, we don't need a life story worth of content in here. How do we then, how do we make our content stand out? How do we give it the best shot of ranking?
Yeah. So I think when you're in those areas, breadth tends to then be the option. So like, okay, I just want rates. Well, what is my seed set of lenders that I'm going to compare? Am I going to show 5 companies and their rates, or am I going to show 50, right? And like sometimes 50 can be overkill. So like some of bank rates comparison tables I think are really nice because they'll start with a pre-filtered, here's the top 5 or 6 are visible by default, but then you can click to expand and see like, oh, they've got every lender under the sun basically because their bank rate, right? So like even if you immediately then collapse that back down and just look at the 6 that they highlighted, you have this feeling of, okay, this is comprehensive. Like they've compared all of the things. They're not just steering me to Bank of America because they're in bed with B of A, right? So trying to thread that needle of making clear to somebody that you've done the research and the legwork to give them these recommendations without, by default, we're going to show all 50 personal loan lenders, because then it's overwhelming and somebody's just going to hit the back button and find somebody that makes the process easier for them. So I think bank rate in some of their products are pretty different once you jump from one topic to another. But in their deposits and personal loan category, they do a pretty good job on kind of hitting both sides of that. But then others, there's some questions where like the answer is the answer, and there's not that much differentiation between folks. And at that point, it's, hey, I feel good about this answer. Like we're giving the answer, page loads quickly. There's not obnoxious ads above the fold, blah, 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 blah. the game is really like, how many other questions like this can we answer and just develop our topical authority and trust in this specific area? Because the amount of work you can do to one page has a pretty definitive endpoint, right? Like you can't just work on that one page and actually make it better week after week after week. Like once the water's boiled, it's boiled. There's no extra boiled water. Like it's done, right? And so then the name of the game after that is like, how much more can we reinforce for this topic more broadly? We are trustworthy. Because you're really just trying to climb up the SERP at that point, because those simple-ish questions that like where the answer is the answer, that's the kind of stuff where like somebody clicks on the first or second listing and they never come back, right? Yeah. Like their job is done and they're kind of completing whatever the action is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one of the takeaways there from what you're saying is like, I think thinking about sort of the site architecture and making it like as flat as possible too. I think so, as to that point of like personal loans, like if I can get you a personal loans page and it's got best personal loans for everyone and best personal loans for people with bad credit and like some of these other variations like that I can click right into from that page without having to like traverse several levels of your website, like that's a better user experience.
No one's going to do that. No one's going to dig for the answer. They're just going to hit the back button to the giver Google.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. That's super helpful. Awesome, man. Well, again, I just can't say thank you enough for taking the time to talk through this with us. Tons of awesome information here. Real quick, before we sign off, I'm going to guess that you're probably going to want to plug Traffic Think Tank. You want to share a little bit about it and what people should know?
Yeah. So TTT is basically two parts. Training. Clearly, I've rehearsed my sales pitch. Nick and Matt are going to hate me.
This is the beauty of SEO, though, is that you don't have to be good at sales if you're good at SEO.
So half education and training in the TTT Academy, some of which is Q&A style stuff, just like this, where we bring smart people on and ask them questions. Not to imply that I'm smart. That was weird. And then other courses. So like one of my personal favorites that I've done is Money Site from Scratch, which is basically like, hey, if you're going to build your first affiliate site, here are 15 videos walking you through the process of like, here's how you think about picking a niche. Here's how you pick products to promote. Here's why I think you should still start with Amazon, even though the commission rate sucks. Picking a web post, blah, blah, blah. So outside of the training, video is mostly of the content. I think there's 200 and something hours of video content in there now. And then the other part is really the community. So I think kind of much like the community here, it's like-minded folks bouncing questions off of each other. Hey, I hit this weird roadblock. Has anybody seen this happen? Fairly SEO specific. There's a bunch of different, so like there's a local SEO channel, an affiliate channel, yada, yada, yada. But most of it tends to hinge on being pretty SEO heavy, I would say.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely encourage you all to check out Traffic Think Tank. Super cool group. Ian, where else can people find you, learn about you, see what you're doing, ask you questions?
Twitter, I guess, would be the best. Just at Ian Howells on Twitter. Hey, look at that! It's like magic. Just tossing softballs up here.
Yeah.
Can you give me like the secret hand signal for the next thing so I can?
That's all I got.
Yeah, no, that's literally it. Like I don't blog. I don't. Yeah.
Well, the secret blogs. We won't talk about those.
There's no email list. There's no, it's I'm in TTT, Slack, and on Twitter talking nonsense half the time.
Awesome, man. Cool. Well, yeah, definitely. Everyone should definitely go follow Ian. Check out Traffic Think Tank. Again, Ian, thanks so much for your time, man. Really appreciate it. Great conversation today, and hope everyone had a great time that attended. Once again, if you haven't already, subscribed, like the video, would really appreciate that. And you can also check out our community at yesoptimist.com/tofu, TOFU. And we'll see you in the next stream. Thanks again, Ian.
Thanks, Tyler.
Cheers.